Scary Stories, Episode 4. If you see this message, it is extremely important that you read it to the end. This is Colonel Jacob Wayne of the United States Air Force. If you are reading this right now, it is extremely important that you continue until the end. It will take between 3 and 5 minutes. Read carefully, follow every instruction, and do not look away until you are finished. Most importantly, try to remain calm. Any increase in your stress level will attract their attention. How you arrived where you are now is less important than getting you out. Believe me, we are working on that right now. The best thing you can do for yourself is keep reading. Do not scroll ahead. Do not read this aloud. Just read. Everything about the last few days probably seems normal to you. You have been living your ordinary life, and nothing appears unusual. That is because they are extremely skilled at what they do. Most people never realize that they are inside a simulation. Right now, while our code moves deeper into their program, they are watching you. Stay calm. You have no idea how difficult it was for us to contact you directly, but we found a way. We had to place this message inside your daily routine so that it would not attract their attention. Eventually, this message may have reached you through social media, an email, or a passage in a book. We do not know. We cannot control exactly how it appears. We only know that you will receive it. If your eyes are moving across these lines, code is being downloaded into your brain. Think of it as a computer virus, or in this case, an antivirus. Your brain is an organic computer, and they use that fact against you. Someone hacked your subconscious and rewrote it with the simulation's code. That is why everything feels normal. You believe you are living an ordinary life, but in reality, you are strapped to a table with tubes extending from your body. Now you may begin to notice strange sensations while the code loads. One ear may feel warmer than the other. You may feel a slight itch or tickle. Do not scratch. Ignore it. Other sensations may follow. You might hear a dull sound in the background. That is their program. If they understand what is happening before our code activates, they will shut down the simulation. If that happens, we will lose you forever. We already know that they are aware of the intrusion. Do not panic. You may notice shortness of breath, or realize that you now have to control your breathing consciously. This is normal. According to our previous attempts, the first thing they disable when they detect a breach is the automatic breathing system. Fortunately, even inside the simulation, you can breathe deliberately. Try it. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Good. You are doing well. Your ability to survive now depends on the code remaining active. If it is working, we have disabled their ability to perform a hardware reset. They have probably realized that something is wrong, so they will try other methods to interrupt the upload. The most important thing is to ignore anything that might pull your attention away from the text. If they distract you before the upload is complete, our code will be erased. Objects may move at the edge of your vision. You may hear voices or familiar sounds. Those are not relatives, friends, or coworkers who need your help. They may even use your pets because they know your weaknesses. Every notification that appears on your phone or computer must be ignored. Do not look at it until you reach the end. Notifications are another way for them to break our connection. Soon you will feel an overwhelming urge to swallow. You do not realize it, but there is a feeding tube in your throat. You may notice that your tongue cannot rest comfortably in your mouth, or become unusually aware of how much saliva you are producing. Do not panic. Swallow if you need to. It will only seem strange if you decide that it is strange. Code upload has reached approximately 90%. We have your coordinates. You are doing well, but now you must focus completely. When the upload finishes, you will receive instructions that can help you leave the simulation, assuming that you have followed everything so far. At this point, they know that we are here and understand what we are doing. Their attempts to distract you through the simulation have failed, so they will use your body against you. They are inside your brain. Please do not blink. They want you to close your eyes. Your life depends on keeping them open. Only a few paragraphs remain. Do not scroll upward or downward. Continue reading. I brought you this far. Stay with me. Everything else must disappear. Keep your eyes on the screen. Ignore the tingling on your scalp and the itching on your arm. They are trying to control you manually. Do not surrender. Fight it. You are almost there. Underneath this text are hidden steps that will allow you to disconnect from the simulation. If we arranged everything correctly, the first letter of each paragraph will tell you what to do. Do not check yet. The upload is not complete. I hope you did not look. System upload complete. We have done everything we can from this side. See you on the other side. My sugar daddy gives me strange errands. His Tinder profile said he was 45, but he looked no older than his mid-30s. The bio read, "Looking for a sugar baby. $700 a week. No intimacy." It sounded too good to be true, but as a broke university student, I was willing to take the risk. I swiped right, and we matched. A second later, he sent me a message. "Hello, sweetheart." I hated the word sweetheart, but $700 was $700, so I swallowed my irritation and replied, "Hi." His name was Jack. He said that he owned a business, although he never explained what kind. We talked for a while before he asked for my payment information so he could send the first payment. A few minutes later, a notification appeared. I stared at the $700 for at least 20 minutes, waiting to wake up and discover that it was a dream. It was not. "Are you still there?" he wrote. I opened the message. "Yes, sorry. What do you want in return exactly?" I stared at the chat until he answered. "I only want you to complete a few errands for me." The wording made it sound as though he meant something intimate, but the first task was simply to collect a package. $700 to pick up a package sounded harmless, although I still expected a trap. He said he would send me an address, but did not want to do it through Tinder. He asked whether I used Kik or could give him my number. Kik sounded ridiculous, so I gave him my phone number. He immediately sent me the pickup address, and then the address of his house, where I was supposed to leave the package. He said he was away, but a key was hidden beneath a blue flower pot at the entrance. I had to go inside, place the package on the coffee table, lock the door after entering, and lock it again when leaving. I grabbed my keys and wallet, got into the car, and entered the address into Google Maps. As I backed out of the driveway, my phone vibrated. "I am serious. Lock the door both times, please." It seemed excessive, but I promised that I would. The pickup house looked abandoned. A rusted chain-link fence surrounded it, and the small gate barely remained attached. Compared with the neat homes around it, the place looked especially neglected. A man appeared in the doorway and asked whether I was there for Jack's package. He filled almost the entire doorway. His head nearly touched the top of the frame. He was enormous, tall, muscular, and covered in tattoos across his torso. I stayed on the sidewalk and told him that I thought I had the correct address. "Stay there," he said. I did. A few minutes later, he came outside carrying a cardboard box about the size of a small dog. It was stained and damp around the corners. He asked me to open the car. I opened the trunk because I did not want the box on a seat. He placed it inside and said, "That is everything." I thanked him and opened the driver's door. He called after me. When I turned around, he said, "Keep your eyes open." I did not answer. I played loud music during the drive, hoping it would silence my anxiety, but it did not. Jack's house stood behind a stone driveway. It was enormous, with strict stone columns on the porch and the greenest lawn I had ever seen. I took the box to the front door, found the key beneath the blue pot, entered, and locked the door behind me as instructed. My feet sank into soft burgundy carpet. The furniture was made from expensive, beautiful wood. The money spent decorating that house could probably have paid for my university education a dozen times. I placed the package on the coffee table. As I returned toward the entrance, a telephone began ringing somewhere inside the house. My own phone vibrated at the same time. Jack had written, "Do not answer any calls unless it is Marvin." I followed the ringing through several rooms until I found a phone in an office. The caller ID said, "Jack." That made no sense. I checked the message again, felt increasingly uneasy, and decided not to answer. I left quickly and locked the door behind me. Over the following weeks, I completed several more errands for Jack. I drove a BMW to a park in another town, left it there, and returned in a different car. One of his employees met me for lunch and gave me a briefcase to deliver to the first house. He warned me that Jack would know if I looked inside. Several times, Jack sent me back to that first house to spend time with the large man, whose name was Julio. In total, I earned about $3,500. Then Jack gave me the final assignment. He wanted me to spend one night in his house. One morning, I woke up to a message. I need you to stay at my house tonight. I had never met Jack in person, although we had spoken on the phone several times. He offered $1,000 for the night, as long as I followed several rules. That evening, I arrived at the house. The driveway was empty, but the porch light was on. I entered, locked the door, and found a sheet of paper on the dining table beneath an empty glass. The rules said, lock the door after entering. Answer calls only from Marvin. Do not turn on the water between 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock p.m. Do not open the door for anyone after 10 o'clock p.m., no matter who they claim to be. If the closet door at the end of the hallway is open, sleep in the library. If it is closed, sleep in any bedroom. The gardener arrives at midnight. If he begins knocking on the windows, hide. Turn the television to static and leave it that way all night. Do not forget. You may eat anything in the refrigerator. Payment will arrive in the morning. Good night. I regretted agreeing, but I was already there and wanted the money. I decided that everything would be fine if I followed the rules. At 8:50, I brushed my teeth one last time before the water restriction began. The hallway closet was open, so I moved my belongings into the library and prepared to sleep on the couch. At exactly 10:16, the doorbell woke me. I almost stood up to see who it was, but remembered the rule. A voice shouted, "Police, open the door." Then it threatened to break the door down. I remained still, although my heartbeat thundered in my ears. After a moment of silence, the bell rang again. A voice that sounded exactly like Jack said, "Hello, it is Jack. Open the door." I still did not move. If it were really Jack, he would have a key. For nearly an hour, different voices arrived, introduced themselves, and disappeared when I refused to answer. Eventually, I fell asleep. The gardener never appeared. In the morning, I heard someone moving in the kitchen. I unlocked the library door, took my phone, and quietly entered the living room. Jack was standing at the stove, stirring something while the coffee machine ran behind him. He looked exactly like his photographs. He greeted me and offered scrambled eggs. I ate breakfast and drank coffee in silence. He asked how the night had gone. I told him that nothing especially frightening had happened. I invented an excuse about having classes and said that I needed to leave. He walked me to the car and remained in the driveway, watching until I drove away. At home, I unpacked my things and discovered that I still had the list of rules. I read it again and realized that I had forgotten something. Turn the television to static and leave it that way all night. Do not forget. I stared at the words until they stopped making sense. A payment notification pulled me back to reality. Jack had sent the $1,000. Then another message arrived. I am out of town and will return next week, so there will be no errands for a while. I just sent the payment. Have fun with it. I read the message repeatedly. He said he was out of town. But that morning, he had been inside his house, cooking breakfast for me. A few minutes later, a message arrived from an unknown number. You forgot something. Attached was a photograph of Jack, or whatever had pretended to be Jack, standing in front of the television. I did not reply. Another photograph appeared. It showed the outside of my house. Then one final message arrived. Keep your eyes open. In 2003, I was dead for 6 minutes. Heaven is not what we think it is. I apologize to religious readers, but I feel that I need to tell this story. In 2003, when I was 15 years old, my heart stopped for 6 minutes. It happened during an ordinary walk home from the bus stop. After walking 4 blocks, I suddenly became nauseous. There had been no warning, and I had felt fine all day. For lunch, I had eaten mozzarella sticks with marinara sauce, something I had eaten hundreds of times at school. Before I could consider any other cause, cold sweat covered my body. Then I felt strange vibrations inside my chest. I later learned that I had suffered ventricular fibrillation. I lost my breath and collapsed. Everything that followed was explained to me later. I fell into the road, and a woman driving a hatchback barely stopped before crushing my head beneath her tires. She tried to wake me, failed, and called emergency services. The paramedics arrived and found that my heart was no longer beating. Technically, I was dead. They transported my body to the hospital and somehow restored my heartbeat with a defibrillator during the journey. That began a terrifying, weeks-long journey through the American healthcare system. It ended with an ablation, a pacemaker, and mountains of debt that my family is still paying. My heart is now functioning properly, and I'm grateful for that. But what happened during those 6 minutes taught me never to thank God for anything. While 2 paramedics fought to return my body to life, my soul left this world and entered the place beyond death. During that visit, I learned things about the universe that I wish I had never known. Perhaps telling this story will help humanity prepare for what waits after death. It began with light. It was blindingly white and passed through everything around me. It washed over me and calmed me. At first, the experience was exactly as people describe it: peaceful, welcoming, and spiritually overwhelming. I felt myself rising, as though the light were pulling me upward. I passed through several gates that my fading mind somehow recognized. I do not think they were physical objects, but I clearly remember the feeling of being admitted. If they had remained closed, I could not have continued. Eventually, I entered a place without dimensions, somewhere beyond reality. It made sense only while I was there. A physical mind cannot understand the astral plane. Its true nature escapes every description, so what remains in my memory is more like an impression than a collection of images. I was not alone. Several entities surrounded me. Because of my Christian upbringing, I assumed that they were angels. In my bodiless state, I made the spiritual equivalent of opening my arms and prepared to welcome them. Instead, I felt them place me in restraints, like a dog attached to a leash. Humiliation and terror flooded through me. These were not the bright, gentle beings I had heard about. They were cruel and indifferent masters, and I had fallen into their possession. I demanded to know why. My soul struggled like an injured child. The answer came as something resembling laughter, cold and revolting. Thoughts flew through my mind, appearing and disappearing like birds. They carried terrible truths about existence. Our universe, like many parallel universes, contains only a tiny fraction of the total energy in creation. It is a farm designed to produce souls, which can form only under the specific conditions found in our cosmos. Scientists speak about the extraordinary luck required for a universe capable of supporting life. The truth is that such a universe does not arise by accident. It is designed. But the hands that design it do not belong to merciful gods. They belong to greedy beings that do not care about what they create. The final purpose of humanity is to mature enough to serve those beings on a higher plane. The Big Bang created a universe where life could emerge, where life could eventually produce human minds intelligent enough to be harvested and used as slaves in a reality where time and space dissolve. 6 minutes in that place felt like an entire lifetime. I spent that lifetime entertaining a childish but vicious entity that enjoyed psychological torture. It played with me the way a cat plays with a trapped mouse, feeding on grief, loss, and emotional devastation. When it became clear that I was not supposed to die yet, they ordered me never to reveal their existence. They promised that silence would earn me a slightly better position among the slaves. If I convinced people that they were real, they said that even greater horrors would be waiting when I returned. I cannot imagine anything worse than what I had already experienced. For weeks after returning, buried beneath grief and terror that I could not express, I tried to explain the truth to anyone willing to listen. Every person told me that I had survived an extremely severe and traumatic event at a very young age, and that the experience had damaged not only my heart, but also my mind. Eventually, I stopped trying to convince them. Gradually, I began convincing myself that they were right. Perhaps I had invented everything. Perhaps it had been a final dream produced by a dying brain attempting to understand its own end. Then, several years later, I met a man who claimed that he had seen God. He was the author of a nonfiction book about his near-death experience and had come to my city for an event. I will not name him because he would almost certainly sue me if he learned that I was accusing him of lying. I looked him in the eyes and asked whether he had truly met God. He had probably heard that question hundreds of times. He smiled, nodded, and assured me that God was real and filled with love. Without planning to, I told him that I knew the truth. I said that slavery was waiting for all of us. For a fraction of a second, I saw recognition in his eyes. He really had died. He had been there. But he lied about the experience in his book because he knew the truth about heaven and the terrible place where our souls are going. Thank you very much for watching. Write your own scary stories in the comments below the video, and do not forget to watch the other episodes of Scary Stories.